Today's video concept is rather simple. What if instead of going through this whole song and dance with counter spells and carefully rebuilding our sideboards, what if we instead just lightning bolted our opponent until they died? Hello folks, Phil Gallagher, aka ThrabenU here for another Legacy video, and today, James has asked us to play 12 Bolt Delver. So, I was asked to just take a stock blue-red Delver deck list of some kind and insert 4 Chain Lightnings into the main deck, which is very much not something that this deck is currently doing in its flex slots. And on top of that, I was then asked to add 4 copies of Lava Spike into the sideboard. The general theory here is, what if instead of playing a bunch of narrow cards in the sideboard, think your blue elemental blasts, your red elemental blasts and stuff, what if we just sideboarded some stuff out and boarded in more burn and got our opponent dead ASAP? That is the theory behind this deck today. The core of the deck is kind of very, very typical for right now, except flex slots have been changed into Chain Lightnings. So in a more traditional blue-red Delver deck, you might actually see a small green splash for something like 2 copies of Quest the Beast. You might see like 1 more Brazen Borrower and maybe 1 more counterspell, such as a Force of Negation in the main deck. And we've gotten rid of those for Chain Lightnings. Because I am going red heavier than usual, I am going to insert 1 basic mountain into the mana base, which doesn't tend to be there right now. This does mean every once in a while we might have a land in the opener that does not work for Daze or Delver of Secrets or Ponder, which is why that doesn't traditionally happen in this deck list. But if I am going to have just this many red burn spells, more on this in a second too, I think the mountain is okay. Might not be good, but it's at least okay enough to, I think, be in the deck. Now, we are going to keep some sideboard heavy hitters that, as James described, can just win games. James had Blood Moon in mind when they originally submitted the deck list. I opted for Price of Progress instead. This is something that I think fits into the burn plan that they originally suggested. Otherwise, if we're going to fit 4 Lava Spikes into the board, we kind of have to pick our battles as far as the other hate goes. So we're going to take a smattering of things that help with graveyard-oriented combo, as that tends to be the most popular type of combo right now, and then a couple of things that can either deal with artifacts or just generic combo decks in general. So we will see how sound it is today to just burn them out, just lightning bolt to face until opponent is dead. Note that if we go extremely heavy in our red count, the counterspells like Force of Will that require a blue pitch card are going to get sketchier. So we may see that tension today as we play some games. But if you don't own some Chain Lightnings or Lava Spikes yet, consider getting them from toamagic.com. They're my current favorite place to shop as far as Magic stuff goes. I just ordered a bunch of stuff for MagicCon Chicago myself, and I got my shipping notification earlier today, so I'll know exactly when it arrives. Promo code ThrabenU will save you a little bit on your order as well. With that being said, let's battle. Okay, opening hand is pretty reasonable here. We do have to lead on a volcanic island, and I believe that it is correct to lead on DRC. If we end up dazing something, we will surveil some extra cards into our graveyard, and we would like this to be attacking as a 3/3 ASAP. We have Wasteland for an early Eldrazi Temple. Hopefully there's not a fucking Spirit Guide here as well. There's a Glaring Fleshraker. That is totally fine right now. Order of operations shouldn't matter here. So let's Chain Lightning a Glaring Fleshraker. My opponent is either doing something else or is lagging pretty badly here. I'm going to then Wasteland them, crash in for 1. I can put instant into my graveyard very easily in the next turn cycle or so. Multiple dazes, not bad. So let's fetch. I think I'm just grabbing Volks here. I'm gonna go Delver of Secrets. I think I just Lightning Bolt face immediately here. because I might surveil for extra damage. Yeah, so that puts creature into graveyard. This puts instant into graveyard. And I do successfully attack for 3 here, with multiple dazes backing up 4 to 6 power. This is very, very good, obviously. We will absolutely say no to a Chalice. That doesn't flip Delver, and it would be hard to DRC again. I think I'm just going to junk that. It is a great card in the matchup, but I don't think I need it here. I think more looks at Wasteland to take out Eldrazi Temple or more things that flip Delver is just better. Yeah, I'll reveal the fuck out of a Lightning Bolt. Let's go. So I send in for 6. My opponent is dead to board plus Lightning Bolt. That is a Sowing Myco spawn. So I'm going to go ahead and daze that creature here. Ponder seems unnecessary. Yeah, opponent is just going to die. They probably can get a Wasteland me and Wasteland me. I Lightning Bolt their face. They are dead. We just kind of had the perfect things that we needed to beat them here, if I'm being honest. So, versus Eldrazi, I love Price of Progress. And we have to decide how much we're respecting Chalice of the Void here. I am a 24 to 28 one-drop deck here, depending on exactly what I want to do. This is a moment in my life where I need to make a choice. I can make the choice to play this league optimally, or I can make the choice to board in Lava Spike repeatedly. You've all seen plenty of Delver gameplay before, presumably from better pilots than myself. Let's go fucking wild, folks. Let's go wild. We're a red deck now. I guess this is kind of for the Eldrazi matchup. I should board that one in too. Who needs Ponder? Let's test the theory. This hand is great if I don't eat a Chalice on one. I just have Lightning Bolt for an early Glaring Fleshraker. I have Wasteland for a Soul Land that's played out. Otherwise, I get a threat on board. My deck should probably not have 3 Flooded Strands in it. Never fails. So we're just going to hope that our opponent stumbles here, and that they kept their hand on the strength of Chalice of the Void, which I eventually will Meltdown or Brazen Borrower out of the way. That's fine. Hey, it's Meltdown. Land drop pass. One of these has to be a volcanic island as of right now. It is rather unfortunate. Fool, we boarded out counterspells. Bobble, sure. So I'm fetching. The question is whether or not I double Volk or Volk Island. I'm always fetching twice. I think I like Volk Island. So this is a Meltdown for X equals 1 to clear that Chalice. Going to Bobble. See what you're drawing. It's a new Chalice. F. I will take a redraw here. Murktide Regent is a great draw. That is just a hopefully gargantuan creature that I can draw after a Chalice of the Void. My opponent chalicing and then wastelanding me is a very good turn cycle for them. So pretty much no matter what they have in hand, that is probably going to happen. That is fine. That is a lot of 1-drops. My Murktide Regent is largely small as of right now. I think I am just going to cast 2 cards and work towards a larger Murktide Regent than just a 4-power one. I think that means pondering immediately. And then I'll like fire off a Brainstorm on my opponent's end step or whatever. And then Murktide Regent. There is a hard cast Once Upon a Time. My opponent kept their hand on the strength of Chalice of the Void and did not have good follow-up. Eldrazi Temple as the pick. So scary things like Sowing Myco spawn can definitely happen next turn. We're gonna fetch, grab a Volk, feed the Chalice of the Void, untap. That's great. Gonna end up wastelanding Yavimaya over the other stuff. So yeah, and then the other 2 don't matter. Well, I guess I should have taken out lands. I'm not going to get a DRC into play. So we'll set our opponent back 1 mana, and then pass. And this is a 3-turn clock, and we'll just see how powerful the stuff my opponent does is. I don't care about the stuff like Thought Knot Seer. If Sowing Myco spawn can tutor up a Maze of Ith, I would care about that. Zelux's command is fine. My opponent's hand does not seem like it was super strong. Hopefully I just killed him in the air here. 5 lands in graveyard. Means I can just cast another Murktide Regent. Opponent's at 12. I don't think I have time to lightning bolt here or anything. So we'll just do this. See if it works. Depending on my opponent's build, my opponent could, exile a Murktide Regent with an on-cast trigger in a way that's very, very bad for me. Hey, getting rid of a Murktide Regent with a cast trigger in a way that's very, very bad for me. There it is. This is unfortunately a 4-turn clock. My opponent has me on a 3-turn clock. I think I'm just bashing. Don't think I have much of a choice there. The follow-up question is, do I then play some more things to grow the graveyard in case I draw yet another Murktide Regent another turn or two from now? Pretty sure I do. Let's send some stuff to graveyard. I'm going to take 6 on the crackback. I'm at 11. It is the One Ring. That is pretty bad for me. My deck looks like this right now. I'm going to continue to cast cards into Chalice here. I'm probably playing towards something like a Price of Progress out. Like my opponent is dead to that. I think that means chump blocking here to gain 6 life. We just kind of see where the next turn cycle or two goes. Just give myself time to draw Price of Progress. The 2 of that I have no manipulation towards, unfortunately. There's a secondary Chalice. That's fine. That does not actually stop the thing that my opponent needs to stop. But they might not know that. Chain Lightning you. My opponent is dead to Price of Progress. I am dead to a Wasteland, or a Sowing Mycospawn. I would accomplish the same thing here. Don't love seeing green mana. Oh, that's fine. There's a Devourer of Destiny. Quite dead to that. That is a Lava Spike, unfortunately, so now I'm dead to this attack step. My opponent lives at a very, very low life total. Dead. Again, the way that I have sideboarded is absolutely not correct to do. But if we're here to test the theory, can we just Lava Spike people to death? I should actually test that theory rather than just, having the Lava Spike sit in the sideboard unused for 4 or 5 rounds. This is fine. It's got a Wasteland. Wasteland is great. It's got a DRC and at least 2 card types, probably 3 card types going to the graveyard immediately. The play versus draw difference was kind of insane last game. I don't want that land. We will go ahead and bobble. Our opponent is drawing a land. I'll redraw. Fantastic. I think we're in the same position as before. If we dodge Ancient Tomb, Chalice of the Void on 1, we probably just very easily win the game. All right. Dismember? Dismember, that's fine. That is 3 card types in graveyard. Now, we will nuke Eldrazi Temple. I will throw a DRC into play. And one of these as a 3/3 can potentially just go the distance in this match. Fantastic. I love it when my opponent wastelands me when I am playing Delver. That is largely positive for me. So, I think I'm into Ponder. So we will Surveil. Wasteland is probably the premium card here. Hey, it's Wasteland. Top. Yeah, Lava Spike on bottom, please. 2 Wastelands in a row. No shuffle. I've made my land drop. Attack for 3. Opponent is at 13. I am just going to intend on wastelanding them forever. And it won't matter if they play a Chalice of the Void now. Yeah, you got it, bud. Wasteland. Wasteland Ancient Tomb. Combat. 3. Opponent is at 8 between their Dismember and their Ancient Tomb, and is unlikely to cast a spell for the remainder of this game. Send in for 3. Opponent goes to 5. Play Wasteland. Wasteland Eldrazi Temple. Last turn. That is a Blast Zone. My opponent will be unlikely to have the mana to actually use that, though. I will send in for 3. I've got 3 cards stranded in my hand. But opponent needs to answer this. Dismember doesn't work anymore. This requires 3 mana to sacrifice. So that would be like land plus a double Spirit Guide or double Lotus Petal type situation. Shaman, sure. So, send in for lethal. Lava Spike prevails. Was the Lava Spike cast? No, but it prevailed, right? That's how that works. Today's video is sponsored by Moxfield.com, and honestly, they're just the best at what they do. If you need to keep your deck lists online, this is the way to do it. They have all sorts of different viewing options. You can condense that text if you like things to be tight. You can make them visual grids. You can put them in stacks. You've got all sorts of different ways to kind of view and visualize your deck lists. And they also have some really cool functionality, like allowing you to see playtest hands and even fully playtest your decks. So check them out. All right. Hand is great. We're just gonna do Delver shit. Just hot girl Delver shit. Just bulk into DRC, daze something, play a Delver or two, force something, win somehow. Sure, you may Mox Diamond. And Flagstones. You got it. My initial threat might eat a Swords to Plowshares around a daze. Accordingly, I think I'm going to go Island Delver here. Given what is currently on the other side of the battlefield, I think I don't want to expose myself to Wasteland. Prismatic Ending. I'm going to let that one go. Ooh, no further land drops from my opponent. Sure. This basic mountain that I put in my deck is now relevant. We're just going to play this, and now we have at least 2 counter spells available for the things that my opponent does. That is a Legend Rule Flagstone here. Getting a Lush Portico. And then a Knight of the Reliquary, which I'm going to daze the fuck out of. Absolutely not. I don't need that land. Delver. Raisin Borrower. So this is not going to flip my Delver. Oh, I'm not surveilling. What am I thinking about? I'm sitting here tanking about whether or not I want this. When I am getting it no matter what. I just mentally thought that was a DRC trigger. Okay, so do I want to bounce Mox Diamond? I don't think so. I think I will just find better uses for those cards. So the way adventurers work is that they are, unless they are on the stack, the like big card type. That night, I am just going to Brazen Borrower out of play. That one can resolve. Man, my opponent has 1 card already? Rough. I guess that's what happens when you Mox Diamond, right? So we'll Petty Theft. And now there's some tension on my Surveil trigger versus wanting to grow DRC versus wanting to flip Delver. That's going to flip Delver and then hopefully turn DRC into a Deuter. So Delver trigger, yes. Reveal Ponder. There's no sorcery in my graveyard yet. Sure. Swords to Plowshare is one of my threats. You do. Float mana. You don't have anything else left, so I will just daze this, returning an island. I want to spend mana casting that Ponder. I could just put it directly into Graveyard if I don't want to draw it. It's probably fine to spend the mana on drawing it. So replay Island, cast Ponder, trigger, Bobble goes to Graveyard. This is now going to attack for 3. Honestly, if I just draw 2 blue cards in a row, I have pitch cards for Force of Will for the next 2 turns. So this is fine. I don't need very much to just win this game at this point. I just need 2 turns of my creatures not dying or being blocked. And this set of cards should do that. So, Force of Will, Pitching Days, yeah. Opponent sees the writing on the wall. My opponent's deck, in theory, should be fine against mine. They've got swords, they've got Prismatic Ending, they've got knights for things like Maze of Ith. There's probably some number of endurance in the 75. All right. So, we all saw that counter spells were incredibly good against this deck, right? And we understand that I should probably counter some number of spells that my opponent is playing, right? We get that? We get that? We understand that? Okay, good. Lava Spike them. Get them. Price of Progress. Also counts as getting them. What's the last slot? Miser's Days. Miser's Days it is. I am losing my mind. We're wilding a little bit today, folks. This just simply does not cast my spells. This is no bueno. This second hand does not have a threat. It has okay mana. On 6, I probably just keep this and let cantrips do cantrip things. Savannah, Mana Dork. Flammable Mana Dork. Is Chain Lightning killing Dryad Arbor to slow my opponent down? Or do I want to try to Chain Lightning a Knight by not putting Dryad Arbor into graveyard immediately. Chain Lightning doesn't kill some of the things that could be played, such as Endurance, which would be a pain in my butt. So I think I'm going to go ahead and do this. Although I think I should have bobbled first, looked at my opponent's top card, and then made my decision based on that information. Unless I'm trying to use the bobble to have a better chance at flipping Delver. Oh, Seiju, sure. Given that, I think I would have Chain Lightninged the Delver anyway. Ooh. Assuming I have 2 lands in play next turn. I have a lot of offensive power that hopefully doesn't get stopped by Endurance. Second Savannah, Sylvan Library. If I get to smack my opponents with Delvers, that ends up becoming bad pretty quickly. And the comic amount of burn that I have in my deck might end up accidentally killing my opponent if they go too wild on Sylvan Library. Conceptually, I tend to like Sylvan Library against slower decks where you can afford to pay the life, and against combo decks where you're just like, okay, I have a bunch of crappy 3-drops in my deck that I can't board out. Sylvan Library helps me to dig towards my secondary lock pieces or combo hate. All right, they do take some damage there. There's an Elvish Reclaimer that is currently killable by Delver of Secrets. I would love for my Delvers to blind flip here. It's a really, really big deal. That is another Delver of Secrets, unfortunately. So we're going to say no to that, and obviously no to this. Starting point, nuke the Elvish Reclaimer. Then we can attack with these Delvers. They are probably not eating it to a flash creature here. Our opponent is at 14. I'm going to fetch. This is a Volk. I will Ponder. Leaving the Bolt on top is totally fine. Let's go bam, bam, bam. Don't use Ponder's ability. Play Delver. Play Bobble. Don't crack Bobble, though. So then the Sylvan Library thing happens again. Opponent is at 10. 9. Reclaimer is fine. Not that I can do anything about it anyway. Endurance is fine. That's not actually a problem here. My opponent is dead on board. I mean, not literally on board, but effectively. I'm going to get to attack them for 6 and then Lightning Bolt them to finish them off. So now I can go ahead and Bobble. Take a look at your top card. It's Talon Gates of Madara. So now we just stack this so that the Bobble goes on bottom. We flip to Lightning Bolt, and we win. The burn spell there is the difference between my opponent getting 1 more turn and not. So Lava Spikes, air quotes, Lava Spikes working. Okay. Opening hand is a little bit questionable. Double Murktide Regent is not great, but a Brainstorm, in theory, lets me put some amount of this stuff back. And as long as my opponent is playing wastelandable lands, initial threat plus double wasteland is probably going to be really good. We don't want to see our opponent just lead on, like, basic Plains and Swords to Plowshares might DRC with this hand, though. Or things get awkward real fast. Underground Sea, you got it. So we're going to wasteland this land and see if my opponent snaps off something like an Entomb in response. Straight up, Stifle. Sure. I'm going to Ponder here. That can just go to the graveyard. I don't need to draw that. But what is my opponent doing with Stifle and Underground Sea? A very low to the ground Grixis Delver type thing? I mean, I think I just stack my cards exactly like this. I am only attacking for 1 this turn, unfortunately. But then I have a Delver set up to flip. I can do that while attempting to wasteland my opponent. Another blue fetch land. Ponder's fine. And opponent shuffles there. So I think I am into casting a Delver of Secrets. My opponent wants to counter it. It could potentially grow DRC. And then I think pre-combat, I still just take out the Underground Sea. If you have more Stifles, you got more fucking Stifles. All right, it hits the bin. I'm only attacking for 1 here, but next turn I know that Delver flips to the Ponder or whatever I left on top of my library. It gets a little weirder if I daze and decide that I need to surveil for some reason. Stifle in Reanimator. Why? Like, what is that trying to accomplish? I am unsure off of the top of my head. This is me thinking through this. This is not me saying, like, I think that is wrong. So Delver flips to Ponder. I actually want to play an instant here. I already have another Ponder in graveyard. So this is going to be a sorcery speed Brainstorm. I am down with drawing that card. So I'm going to bury DRC for a little while, put some blue card on top of my deck, play a Bobble. Oh, I could have done that better. I could have junked the DRC that I didn't want. Oops. Oh well. So yeah, Brazen Borrower coming. Send it. Opponent is at 11. I take my redraw here. Murktide Regent is probably just Force of Will fodder rather than something that I am going to be casting. Opponent has more mana. Opponent attempts to bounce my thing. I think that is fine to Force of Will, because if I get rid of this, this is also just another blocker that I don't have to deal with later. And while I'm not hyper excited about this DRC, I think it is fine to just put in play. Daze is happening. So I only get to hit for 3 this turn. The reanimation side of my opponent's deck is probably getting shut off relatively quickly here. Just due to the fear of me killing them on the backswing after they cast a reanimate. My opponent is down to 7. Roll cycling is fine. Third land drop. Seems like opponent's just going to try to go in with Brazen Borrower as a blocker. Whatever I do, I should probably do it pre-combat, because I'm very likely to daze Brazen Borrower within combat. I can Chain Lightning for the kill now, if everything goes my way. If everything doesn't go my way, playing DRC is just better. I think I'm going to assume that everything does not go my way here. My opponent has 5 cards and 3 mana available. Let's just cast this pre-combat. If I end up dazing in combat, I can even play Chain Lightning post-combat. I also just physically get more surveils this way. There is Brazen Borrower. I'm going to daze that, returning a Volk. I probably don't need that daze if I'm not drawing that immediately. That bolt is fine. I'll say that that can stay. That is a Force of Will, acceptable. So I will lose a DRC here. My opponent takes 3 and goes to 3. You know what deals 3 points of damage? That's right. Chain Lightning. Unbeatable deck. Now, this time, my opponent is doing something really powerful. I think we need to bring in the Graveyard Hate. I don't think we get to be cute with Lava Spikes this time versus, you know, some variant of a tier 1 strategy that has survived multiple ban waves. Chain Lightning is probably the short straw here that I get rid of. Chain Lightning is a sorcery for DRC, which is great and all, but if my opponent is bringing in Glyphs or whatever, the Chain Lightning is unlikely to kill them. So I think I need my generic counter spells and my Graveyard Hate, and then I think I keep the core of the rest of the deck around. Yeah, this hand seems perfectly fine. I'm gonna keep this one. So plan is basic island into Grafdigger's Cage with Daze backup. If my opponent randomly stifles this island, that would be annoying. I don't think I am going to be playing around that. Definitely not playing around that now. Although there's some question of, like, do I just wasteland my opponent's Undercity? What a luck sack. Undercity Sewers immediately. I think now that they surveilled the literal perfect card, I don't get to do that. I'm fine with this being a basic. My opponent has shown me Wasteland already. So let's throw down on Grafdigger's Cage. That is a Daze. I will in turn daze your Daze. Fantastic. Now again, there's going to be a Brazen Borrower or 2 in my opponent's deck. We've already seen that. Holy shit, they would have Luck-sacked into the Reanimate as well. What a fucking set of cards on the top of the library. So if my Cage ever leaves play, it is bad things for me. My opponent has junked a land, so they don't want more land. The difference between 1 and 2 mana is the difference between Bowmaster and not. I need to Wasteland them before they get to 3 mana. The Wasteland always works if I do it now. It never gets stifled. I think that is my tiebreaker here for whether or not I take that action. I would like to get Delver into play sooner. Oh, yuck. Rather than later here. I want to capitalize while my opponent's deck is stumbling. I might want to flip this Delver badly enough that I brainstorm in my upkeep next turn with the Delver trigger on the stack. If my opponent does not pass the turn with blue-black available, or rather with 2 mana available for Bowmasters, it's probably fine to brainstorm, but if they are telegraphing that they potentially have brainstorm, I don't think I get to do it. Although, I don't know. If they have Bowmasters, they just do it on their own turn because it always kills Delver then. And, yeah. Alright. Alright, so I'm going to put back a land, and I'm okay showing them Ponder. I don't think I want to show them Surgical. Alright, so they now know about this Ponder. They Fatal Push my Delver. Okay. I will use said Ponder to hopefully find a new threat that is worth being wastelanded off a Volk. Or I could just wasteland their wasteland and redraw a card that I'm not super keen on. I think I'd rather just be wastelanded. If they wasteland me, they're not getting to 3 mana for a Goyf. So let's Ponder here. I'm not willing to draw more than one of those cards. Okay, well, we have drawn 3 of our 4 sideboard hate cards here, which is maybe fine. A Troll Cycle is okay. That is fine and expected. That is fine. Opponent junks an Entomb and passes back to me. I will go ahead and wasteland you now. Then, now that Daze is not live, I will drop a new Grafdigger's Cage, and we will just keep the Reanimator side of my opponent's deck not being live. My Lightning Bolts are not particularly strong here. Force of Will as a draw is kind of whatever. This is likely to be an exceptionally long game. Like, it would not be surprising to me if this ends up being like a 12-turn game or something like that. Alright, no, we're just playing Draw-Go. Every Reanimate, Animate, Dead type card that my opponent draws is just a dead card in hand right now. Awkwardly with my mana as it is, if I top deck a Murktide Regent, I can't cast that immediately. Don't want those bolts. But I have boarded those out reasonably. Not super reasonably. So on my opponent's end step, I probably Lightning Bolt their face once. Otherwise, I might be starting to get into the I might need to discard a card situation next turn. I would prefer not to drop Brazen Borrower bounce. So we'll just Bolt Face. That's a very good brainstorm in all likelihood. It's probably a brainstorm that lets my opponent shuffle away multiple cards like Reanimate. But my opponent probably has so few cards in their deck that are relevant right now. Like, there's probably 2-ish Brazen Borrowers, 3-ish Goyfs. And if I do something like counter a Goyf and then surgically extract them, my opponent probably doesn't get through 2 Grafdigger's Cages. I think I'm just good with that happening. Well, maybe not good with it happening, but I don't think it's worth my single Force of Will to make that happen. DRC is a fine pickup. We have 5 card types in Graveyard. I don't think I fight to protect this, though, if my opponent fires off something like a Fatal Push or a Shoot the Sheriff or whatever. Grabbing a basic. No follow-up action. Sure. That does not feel like it is worth fighting over. Alright, we have drawn all 4 pieces of Graveyard Hate. That's a bit much. It's not like I've even been cantripping to get to them, either. Wasteland's actually more annoying than it looks here. Or Lightning Bolt. Is that all of them? No, that's 3 of them. Okay. I'm going to let a Brazen Borrower resolve and Lightning Bolt it this turn. That is currently my plan. Yeah, so you resolve, Lightning Bolt you, Surveil. I really, really do want the extra mana. I'm just going to confirm that I only have 2 basics in the deck. I do only have 2 basics in the deck. Guess I'm getting rid of it. Alright, opponent not fighting back or can't fight back. A little hard for us to tell. Then I will pass the turn here. At some point, I can consider Surgical Extraction on Fatal Push or Surgical Extraction on Brazen Borrower or something like that, if I would be otherwise forced to discard. Bonus land. Sure. Send in for 3. Opponent goes to 10. I can play the Hearse or just leave bonus mana available. If I try to hardcast Brazen Borrower, I think that ends up getting deleted a lot of the time. So I think we are just going to play an unlicensed hearse like this. The extra land after this one gets wastelanded is fine. I think I will just take that. Why did I specifically leave up Island? I intentionally meant to leave up Lightning Bolt. That was just a whoopsie. Opponent has a lot of land and is taking an action. Am I going to get to daze a troll? I'm going to get to daze a troll. I'll return this wastelandable volcanic island. That's good enough. I'm undefeated with this, right? I sure am. Oh boy. Alright, if memory serves, this player is just on the Cloud Post train all the time. So I think my opening hand that just has a wasteland to start with is okay. I need to cantrip towards a threat. I am not really going to win the long game in this matchup. I guess we'll get to see how a fistful of fucking lightning bolts to the face feels. Alright, opponent tanked for a little while and did ultimately keep 7. We're looking for a Delver, a Murktide, a DRC. What about more other Wasteland? Alright. Now, if my opponent is randomly playing something other than Cloud Post today, that decision was fully wrong, but called it. Wasteland. Nuka Cloud Post. Pass. Basically purely to use my mana and to keep filling my graveyard. I will probably Brainstorm on my opponent's turn. Here I'm going to do it to potentially find a Daze. I did not. I don't think that's worth Force of Willing. I want to keep a Brainstorm to Force of Will a little bit later. And I want to put an instant 2 cards down. That means Lightning Bolt and something like Delver on top immediately. I'm going to just let that resolve. Finding a new Cloud Post. Unfortunately, we've got our opponent's number here. So, Wasteland, target Cloud Post. That is a crop rotation. I'm going to say as a tempo play, this is acceptable. I am trading Wasteland for my opponent's land, and I am trading Force of Will and blue card for crop rotation. I know that this Delver is flipping, and every turn that my opponent stumbles is just worth 3 points of damage here, guaranteed. So Delver trigger, yes, reveal Lightning Bolt, go to Punchies, Punchies for 3, opponent goes to 17. I'm going to go ahead and Brainstorm now in case I can put another threat into play. I can't immediately, but I can Murktide Regent next turn, and that's pretty damn good. So let's put back Lightning Bolt, land, Flooded Strand, fetch Valk, play Valk, Ponder. Holy shit. Yes. Some portion of the time I could get wastelanded off of Volcanic Island. That feels awkward for my opponent to do. I think I am accordingly okay putting Flooded Strand on bottom and taking those cards. Yeah, that is a wasteland. They do wasteland me. Well, fuck me, I'm wrong. I don't get to play Murktide Regent because of how I stacked that then. That costs me a turn, but the upside is that if I needed to Force of Will that turn, I could Force of Will that turn and Daze the following turn. I am just going to Daze that. It is awkward in terms of getting this Murktide Regent into play, but is very good in terms of actually using my own resources. So drop Island, attack for 3. I can potentially Daze again even. Well, it's annoying. Pay for Tabernacle. Let's just do the thing that can grab a basic immediately. Send in for 3. Opponent's at 9. So my opponent does not actually have mana to pay for that Daze. So let's just Daze there, returning an island. Yeah. It was probably correct for my opponent to play it out in that way, just as a heads up, because they can hit ETB tapped lands that matter a lot. I'm just going to grab a basic mountain here to pay for this. That's fine. So combat, hit opponent down to 6. I think we're going to go ahead and play that. It does mean that the Tabernacle gets better against us, but I hopefully just kill my opponent. Like I Force of Will literally whatever they do to try to turn this into a higher power creature. And they do just concede there. They weren't technically dead there. So, Are we going to continue to be a crazy person? Yep, absolutely. That's what you're here to see, right? It's just unhinged Phil boarding out counter spells and playing Burn Delver. Consign, maybe? So then there's some amount of, like, what do I want to do with flex slots? Miser's Force of Will because it's lucky. This is absolutely not correct. Oh, yeah, this hand looks great. Boseiju and pass. Draw step stop? You're going to crop rotation before I can daze it? And you just wanted to play around Force of Negation? No. Okay. I probably need to Valk with this land. Like, sometimes I can grab the basic and just do some lightning bolt type stuff, but my opponent could do some very powerful stuff that I end up needing to respond to. So I don't have counterspells to look for anymore, which is absolutely what I would want on this board. I think I am going to ponder, attempt to grow DRC a bit. That can just go to graveyard. I can't immediately play it this turn. Multiple wastelands, yes. Doesn't super matter what I put in my hand here. I just want to have wasteland between this turn and next turn. I'm already going to have a sorcery in graveyard. Let's go ponder, wasteland, flooded strand, no shuffle, play wasteland, small punchies, pass turn, upkeep, attempt to attack tower, and probably walk into crop rotation. That's my guess here. It is Once Upon a Time instead. Loading 2 mana. I think my opponent thought that they had cast a spell this game. Like, that is a very weird thing to lock yourself into. Alright, there is a crop rotation as follow-up. Getting a Planar Nexus. My opponent can potentially just play a neutron land here and have 4 mana to drop something like the One Ring immediately. That's fine. So this innately does not make colored mana, so crop rotation is not currently available with just that. I'm going to fire off a Wasteland on Planar Nexus, attack for 1, hope Tabernacle doesn't come down and immediately kill my DRC. Alright, cool. We disrupted tower nonsense here. Now there's no instant in my graveyard. I'm going to go for a mid-combat Lightning Bolt here and try to push some damage. So fetch, bulk, Lightning Bolt, your face. I'm going to keep that. I would prefer a red land, like greatly prefer a red land. But Price of Progress is potentially just going to be a game-ending gem here. Because I could start to fall behind as early as this turn. A new Wasteland. That is a Sowing Myco spawn. My opponent could use that to get a Wasteland. They're using it to get a Planar Nexus for Urza Tower purposes. That's fine. I just Price of Progress this turn, right? Just 8 guaranteed damage. Yeah. Send it. Opponent is at 9. Pop. Junk Brainstorm. Junk Brainstorm? Alright, there we go. So opponent is at 1. They can Wasteland me off of red, but they have to deal with DRC just hitting them in the face and killing them. And if they cast the One Ring, they can't draw cards off of it. That is going to be a kicked Sowing Myco spawn. That can exile a land. My opponent could then get Tabernacle to kill my DRC, which they do. I will take some damage here. I lose this creature. Red land. Fetch. Mountain. Lightning Bolt. Target your face. I'm playing for a trophy while behaving crazily like an absolute madman while playing 12 Lightning Bolts in Delver. Wild. I didn't think we'd get this far, folks. I did not think we would get this far. Alright, final round here. Hand is not keepable. Too many bolts. Help me, Brainstorm! You're my only hope! I think that's where we're at with this one. This is not super impressive. If memory serves, my opponent plays lands as well, and my hand is not looking like it's going to line up super great versus that stuff. Basic? I think basic. I just, know that Wasteland is a thing on the other side of the table. I'm gonna try to do better than this stuff. Delver is good. Delver backed by 2 Force of Wills as tempo is acceptable. It is Dark Depths. Okay. So maybe it wasn't lands. Maybe I was a little off in remembering. This is a wastelandable land, if that matters. I think I'm going to brainstorm looking for a wasteland, and we can settle for... Oh, fuck. No, I can't settle for Delver Flip afterwards. Well, we can settle for a lot of blue cards in hand. How about that? Because now I have Delver plus double Force of Will. I just have enough blue cards in hand for that. So this is Volk and a Delver. I'm stone cold dead to just land drop Thespian Stage, make Duder. I am just going to Force of Will that, because specifically I am very, very afraid of my opponent finding Thespian Stage here. Force of Will, pitching Ponder. Sometimes I can just cast a Murktide Regent while still having Force of Will up. Ah, fuck. Fucking Maze of Ith. Alright. I do not want to reveal Mishra's Bauble. My attack does not get me anywhere, although it taps Maze of Ith. I'm going to send in with this Delver, because Maze of Ith could produce green mana for something like a crop rotation right now. I am going to look at the top card of my own library here to see if I am about to draw a blue card. I'm not about to draw a blue card, so I'm going to hold Force of Will in hand for Murktide Regent. Is that true? Or do I just need to put a threat in play, because if I'm not clocking my opponent, they are going to kill me? I'm going to hold it. So I think I'm going to lose this match. I don't think we're going to get the trophy. Generally speaking, the Maze of Ith deck tends to be pretty good against the Delver of Secrets deck, especially if that deck just has a pile of something like Endurances in the sideboard. Damn it. I need Brazen Borrower right the fuck now. So Delver trigger. My opponent is considering taking action right now. Okay, my opponent is not taking any action. I'm going to reveal a Daze here. So... I did not just draw a Wasteland. I can continue to play this game by chump blocking here, chump blocking here. That buys me a few turns, but my opponent is at 20 life and has Maze of Ith. That's not great. I'm going to look at my own top of library. There's a Lightning Bolt. All right. I'm going to cast a Maze of Ith. I have 2 blockers for this creature, and a single Brazen Borrower to draw as an out to this. This is happening. My counter spells are not doing their thing here. I redraw that Lightning Bolt. More Dark Depths coming. That is a crop rotation. I have to Force of Will that, or I die to some sort of Sajiri Step style card. Yikes. Now, my opponent can just replay all of this stuff. I don't think I can possibly win anymore. I'm going to play it out because I am playing for a trophy, so I'm going to see if I am wrong. But I think this card has to be Brazen Borrower or I'm dead. Yeah. So at this point, if I ever answer Merit Lage, my opponent can just immediately make a new one. I am comfortable conceding at that point. This draw, if this draw is Brazen Borrower, I can hit in for 5. My opponent can play Thespian Stage. I can maybe get another flying creature to block, hit for 5 more. Like, there's a timeline, but missing that, I don't think I can possibly win. So, be true to yourself. Be true to yourself always. I don't think I'm going to win this matchup playing it in the traditional way. I just simply do not think I can do that, especially being down a game already. I'm going to try to burn my opponent out. Just try to go like creature, handful of burn spells, kill them. That is my plan. Consign Surgical Hearse, keep a counterspell or 2. It's probably keep a counterspell or 2. I mean, sure. So yeah, fetch. Absolutely Volk in this situation. Delver, Bauble, and we're going to use Bauble to help flip Delver. Mox Diamond is happening. Stage. Sure, that's fine. Gonna make DRC and Murktide and Friends like a little bit worse. We are now going to Bauble ourselves here. There's a Brainstorm on top. So what we do is we stack our Bauble trigger on bottom so that Delver goes and flips to Brainstorm. Then we'll take our Bauble, redraw. I don't really love Island here. Like, I just want to be able to spew red cards right now. I'm going to try to brainstorm fetch here, but there is a fail rate for this decision. Ooh, Wasteland is fine. Crop rotation is potentially a thing, but this is fine. I'll put like a Lava Spike 2 down. Draw Island next turn. Wasteland. Attack Thespian Stage immediately. And pass. And then next turn I can DRC into Ponder or something. Alright, Dark Depths is not immediately putting any mana out there. Sure. I'm going to send in for 3. Opponent is at 14. I'm going to deploy DRC. I am immediately going to turn it into a 3/3 by casting a Ponder. I don't have the mana to junk all of these things at the same time. Let's go ahead and just put that into my graveyard. I mean, yeah. No shuffle. That was honestly ideal. Again, counter spells good. Okay, no land drop from my opponent here. That's great. I get to do a shit ton of damage to them then. Alright, you are going to go for my graveyard here. That prevents 2 damage immediately. That is fine. I guess that was a reason to play DRC pre-combat. No, actually, I wouldn't want to use the Brainstorm if I miss a blue card. I don't have active Force of Will anymore. That's actually a really big deal. That is a crop rotation. Absolutely not. I believe this is going to leave my opponent dead. Yeah, they know what's coming here. So they would take 9 and then get burnt out. Oh, the counter spells are so good. It is like very clearly correct to be playing them, and I just have to win one more match for a trophy. I think I need at least the Force of Wills on the draw. I'm going to board out these for the Force of Wills. My blue count is low-ish. I should really probably also play some Dazes, even though they are like very noticeably worse on the draw. I really wish I had another Brazen Borrower too to loot towards. I just don't. It may be that being on the play, I get to be hyper aggro, and being on the draw, I just can't do that again. Go down 2 Chain Lightnings, keep Pop as a, oops, I accidentally won the game. See if we can take a league down. Note that a 4-1 finish, especially playing like an insane person for most of this league, like I have been doing, is quite good. There's the price of progress. I have a Daze. I have 2 Murktide Regents, which aren't ideal. Wasteland's very good. Turn 1 creature is very good. This matchup may be fast enough that Brainstorm fixing this hand on turn 2 is not ideal. I'm going to ship this. I want something more aggressive. Hand's terrible. I think this hand is so bad that I play a 5 instead. Okay, this is the shit that I want. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, like a lightning bolt to supplement this. Yeah, and yeah. There is an opening once upon a time. Finding Yavimaya. Playing Yavimaya. And a card that I probably have to lightning bolt immediately. Are we fine on basics? It might be awkward later for things like Murktide Regent. I don't think I am fine on basics here. Alright, immediate lightning bolt. And we try to Delver and DRC. That's Talon Gates just being played as a regular old land here. I mean, yeah. I'm going to try not to play that this turn, though, and hope I don't lose the game for it. I think it is much better for me to hope my opponent puts 1 combo piece into play immediately, like on their next turn, and then does the next one the following turn where I can have Wasteland held up. I think I just need to attempt to put 6 power into play this turn. That is an Urza's Saga. Did not board in Meltdown to help out with that. I do have a Wasteland for that. But if I use the Wasteland style cards on Urza's Saga, yes, that's very good. If I use the Wasteland style cards on Urza's Saga, then I am not saving them for the combo pieces, unfortunately. That is annoying but acceptable. What is this? That's rough. That's very, very bad for me. Wow, not Wastelanding Yavimaya. Put me in a very, very bad spot. Now, I am going to do this, and let's figure out what we're doing here. Land goes to graveyard. Oh my god. What an atrocious brainstorm. If I want to wasteland that Urza Saga because it's beating me, I am redrawing these cards. And I have no spells to cast to do surveil nonsense. Oh gosh. Thanks, I hate it. Take out Urza Saga. So, Price of Progress maybe is how we steal this one from here. No. My other wasteland is now effectively dead. My opponent has a recursive Urza Saga. I just brainstormed. I know my brainstorm is bad. Basically, yikes. Basically, yikes. I will not reveal Volcanic Island. I'm going to play Scalding Tarn and try to fetch and get new cards. Okay. All right, that's enough. That's enough. No trophy for me. I will be very happy with the 4-1 that we got piloting this deck. All right. Overall thoughts on the deck list. Well, James, we were hella successful today. I am not going to lie to you. Our 12-bolt Delver deck absolutely worked, even if we were trying to, maybe do some things that were pretty questionable. It turns out that if your primary strategy is kill your opponent as quickly as possible, even if you are perhaps not doing optimal strategy, you're still just going to win a lot of games. And if your opponents don't know how much reach you actually have, you can surprise some people who think they are going to have much more time before you top deck a lightning bolt effect. The Price of Progress stole us a game or two. That was a very, very good card. The Graveyard Hate obviously did its work in the blue-black Reanimator matchup. So if you want to do something like this, you certainly can, and you can have good results doing this. Now, over a larger sample size, are we going to run as hot as we did in this video? Are we going to, top deck that red land that we need to fire off these things? I don't know that the answer is yes. And playing the basic island and the basic mountain was a little awkward here. Anytime you play basic mountain, you set yourself back a turn for Murktide Regent. Basic mountain does not work for days, whereas island does not work for the gajillion red cards that are in your deck. So despite basic lands being very, very good, and we did see them be very good versus things like Sowing Mycospawn, there is some tension here. So thumbs up for doing this for a day. This was a lot of fun, but Thraben University is not responsible for any league losses you get while trying to be a madman like I did and play Lava Spikes in your Delver decks. Alright folks, I hope you enjoyed, and if you need your Lava Spikes to try this out, you know where to go. Promo code ThrabenU. Alright, have a great rest of the day folks. See ya!